Well, now we can talk a little bit about certifications, and this is a rabbit hole in itself, right?
Yep, yep.
Early on, you mentioned the CompTIA certifications, and I like CompTIA a lot, and I know that
hmm
some people don't, and that's fine. But I think that there's a trend to, I don't know, man. I feel like people that are very experienced and are very well rounded in this field don't see that much value in entry level certifications. And me, as someone who just started, I don't really agree with that because I think that, as you were saying, having something that is able to give you the fundamentals and the like the basic concepts that you need to start on this field is a very positive thing to have. A security
Right.
plus, a network plus. I wouldn't say the A plus, only if you're really like starting out in IT in general. But like
hmm
those two certifications, the network plus and the sec plus. I only have one. I only have the security plus, but I have a course on network plus, and I really think that it's essential to have those fundamentals, and you don't need those certifications, of course. But if like your employer is paying for them, why wouldn't you want to do that, right?
Right.
Or if
Yeah.
you have the opportunity, like if you have the money, the money, I'm sorry, if you have the money to spend on those certifications, I don't think that's a bad investment, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the big thing with certifications is they're not a necessary thing that you need in the field.
Absolutely,
But I think having them is better than not having them.
it
Like
helps, right?
especially Yeah, especially if you're just starting out. Like when I first started, I think I got my A plus when I was like 18.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I went for that one was because like I knew I wanted to work with computers, but I didn't
Yeah,
necessarily know what that was going to look like in the future.
yeah,
But I figured, having a background of, knowing what like the basics of, computer hardware and software would be helpful no matter where I work.
yeah.
Um, so I think having that was very helpful, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also like, if you can get that experience without necessarily getting a certification, like that's probably even better.
For sure,
Um,
for sure.
but what I really like about certifications is they give you a like a path
Mm-hmm.
to work towards.
Yeah,
Like if I were to tell you, okay, David, learn how to be a pen tester,
yeah,
and there weren't any certifications, like that would be a really hard thing to do.
for sure.
Um, but if I said, okay, get this OSCP certification or whatever the certification may be, it kind of gives you a framework of like what to learn.
Yeah,
Um, so I think they're really helpful for that. But then, there's also like the argument of, um, art, they're very expensive.
yeah,
You know, should you be paying money to renew your certifications? Should you, there's that whole side of the argument. And I
for
think
sure.
that, um, depending on what the certification is and what your background is and what you're getting the certification for, I think it can depend.
Yeah, I think it depends on. It also depends on. Are you doing this like to get a job? Does your job requires you to get this specific certification? Because I know that, for example, I talk about John Hammond a lot because I follow him a lot and I know a lot of his background story. And he has a video where he talks about his resume and he
hmm
has the CEH there. And some people would argue that you don't really need a CEH certification to be a pen tester because it's just like 120 multiple choice based questions and it's not really practical. They now have a practical module, but yeah, that doesn't matter. What
hmm
I'm saying is that he took that certification because his employer was asking him to have the certification. Maybe he's going to tell people, okay, if you don't need, if that's not a specific request from your employer, don't get this, let's get anything else. That's okay for me. Now, saying that it doesn't have value or it doesn't has any value is a different story for me. You know what I mean? Because it really
Right.
depends on your reality. It really depends on your needs or the opportunities that might get into your way. In my experience, my employer didn't ask for any certifications for my first experience as a penetration tester. But having those like first certifications, like the security plus, like those fundamental certifications really helped because they were like, okay, at least this guy knows or is familiar about these concepts, and there's no need to have like 1 hour interview asking what is a subnet, like what is,
Right.
you know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
that it helps.
I think the biggest thing about certifications for me are like if you take a certification and you learn something from it, like that's good.
Yeah,
Like there's no situation in where learning something new isn't like a good thing.
yeah,
So if you took the CEH or whatever the certification may be and you learned something from it, like that's great.
yeah,
Um, and if that can help you get your foot in the door somewhere, whereas otherwise you wouldn't have gotten that opportunity,
yeah.
then like that's great.